Gridfinity is great if you can find a bin that somebody has already modeled for your specific tool. Otherwise, it's going to take a while, or it did. I'm going to show you how you can take a picture of a tool on a piece of paper and turn it into a custom bin in just a few minutes using Tracefinity. Love it or hate it, a lot of people are using these little modular Gridfinity bins in the Gridfinity standard to organize their workshop. We have a lot of different tools, and it's just not practical as a business for us to create a custom bin for every one of those when we have to take a picture, pull it into CAD, or take a bunch of measurements and draw that outline by hand. But there are several tools out there, and the one I'm going to show you today is called Tracefinity, that let you automate this process. It's pretty simple. We're just going to take a picture of the tool, then we're going to create the outline of the tool, we're going to assign that to a bin, and then we're going to print the bin. So just 4 steps. Now, there are a lot of tools out there that do this kind of thing now. I haven't tried all of them, but what I like about Tracefinity is it's an open source project. So you can either pay to have access to the web hosted version, or you can just host it on your own computer if you've got the resources. So I've got a server in our server rack that has Tracefinity running on it among several other things, and we're just going to use that. So it is costing me nothing unless I use Google Cloud API credits, but honestly, I haven't even needed to do that. The first step is taking a photo of your tools, and for that, we're just going to need a sheet of paper. Either A4 paper or letter paper works, depending on where you are in the world. And you need your tools. These are some new sets of Doyle pliers that were on sale, and I'm replacing some pliers that are here in my lathe toolbox, and I want to put them in a Gridfinity bin. So I'm going to go ahead and get them out of the package. We'll lay them on the paper, and we'll talk about how to take a good photo. Okay, so now I'm going to put the tools on a piece of paper. You can put more than one tool on a piece of paper, no problem. And it should be relatively clean paper, and it can trace multiple tool outlines, but this is not going to work very well. We do have a high contrast background, so that's great, but the big problem is all these shadows from the lights in the shop. So what we need to do is get a different light in here to shine down and make sure that we get this as flat as we can so you get really good, crisp outlines for the AI to trace. So something like this with direct overhead lighting is a lot better, and you can also use the flash on your phone. When you're lining up to do this, you want to make sure that you're not off at an angle, as that causes an error, and you want to shoot straight down as much as you can, keeping those shadows out of the way, maybe using your light on here or a flashlight from the sides, and make sure that the full outline of the page is visible. So I'm going to go ahead and take the photo and get a little bit closer. Take it again. And looking at that, I'm pretty happy with that. There's a little bit of shadow here, but the tool is dark enough. I don't really think it's going to be a problem. Now we're going to take these into the office and upload them to the computer. Okay, here on my computer, we have Tracefinity loaded up. Again, I'm running this locally on a server here, but you can subscribe online. You can run it on your laptop. You can do this however you want. And I'm going to click Upload Photo and just navigate to the photo I just took, and it pulls this menu up. So what you can see is we've got our piece of paper, and I can drag the corners to line up. It did a pretty good job already though. Looks like my image was a little bit skewed, so I wasn't quite straight down, but for freehanding this, it's not too bad. Make sure you select your paper size over here. I select letter. And you can select how you want to trace. You can use the Gemini API, which you have to pay. It works out to something like between a nickel and a dime per trace. And I have set that up, and honestly, I don't see a big advantage using it over some of these others. In fact, this BiRefNet Lite seems to do just fine for all of my purposes. So we're going to use that, and you can use that by default without having to set anything up or having to pay. And I'm going to click Trace Tools. Now what this is doing is working on the photo, trying to find tool outlines, and hopefully not find too much with the shadows. And this takes a minute depending on the complexity of your image and how many tools are on the image. I have done up to about 8 or 10 tools on a piece of paper that were really small, and that worked just fine. So over here on the left, you see we've got our silhouettes of the tools. And if I click Tool 1, it outlines this tool in a very hard to see blue outline and shadow, and Tool 2. So you select which ones of those you want to keep. I want to keep both of these because both of these traces look pretty good to me. And I hit Save to Tools. Now, one downside to doing multiple tools on a sheet of paper is if you are looking at them in this view, you can see I've got a lot of other tools in here as well. You have to mouse over them to see which tool it is, but we can also name them. So I'm just going to click up here, Tool 1. I'm going to call these Doyle side cutters, and we need to make any adjustments that we see fit. Zooming in, well, honestly, it looks like it did a pretty good job tracing this tool. I'm going to show you how to remove points. Not that we need to do this here, but for example, this point, maybe these are a little redundant, so I'm going to just clip those out. You can add a point. So if I want to add a point and then move it, I could do that. If you turn off snap, it gives you a lot more freedom. So maybe I want to make sure that it's a little peaked there. Great. Okay, so you can go in and make any of these adjustments that you want. You can also fill in like a hole or something like that. You can make some manual sizes, but one of the main things you want to do is make sure to put a finger hole in. And so when I click, it's going to create a finger hole. And I'm going to go back to select, and I'm going to increase the size of these so that they're about equal and almost touch. I'm going to do it about like that. One thing that I do wish they would add, and I'm sure it will be coming because I have submitted a few bug reports before and they've been very quickly addressed, I've been really impressed, is the ability to control the depth of these. For me, they don't go quite deep enough into the print, but I'm pretty happy with that. You can also change between accurate and smooth. To be honest, I haven't seen a huge difference. If you do go for the smooth route, you can change how smooth, but accurate's been fine for me. Okay, we can do any rotation that we want to do, but I'm just going to leave it as is for now. I'm going to go back to the tools menu, go to my tool 2, I'm going to rename this Doyle Assembly Pliers, and we'll do the same thing. Let's examine it. Oops, I didn't want to do that. One thing, there is an undo now that I don't believe that used to be a thing. Okay, so maybe here, yeah, I'll go ahead and get rid of that point. It wouldn't bother me too much, but maybe this one. Okay, just simplify it a little bit. Yeah, there. Okay, good enough. Because it is going to add a little bit of a margin for the tool to fit in, so you don't have to worry about it too terribly much. Now what's our next step? We need to add finger holes. And it really just takes some experimentation to get where you like these and how big you like them. I generally think it's easier to make them kind of unreasonably large because you're probably going to have gloves on a lot of the time, or at least I am trying to get to these. But I'm going to turn off snap again so I can position these with a little bit more granularity. And okay, I'm going to call that pretty good. So now we're going to go back to tools. So that's our step 1, take a picture, and step 2, create the outlines done. Now we need to create bins. So you can create a project to group bins together, and CNC lathe area is where I'm working. So I'm going to go into there and I'm going to go down to add tools. I'm going to click these 2 tools and say add to. Now it's added those tools to this project. And you can see it says needs bin. It knows that these haven't been assigned to any bins in this project yet. So great. This makes it really easy to tell what's going on. Now you click how many tools you want to put in a bin and then hit create bin. So if I want to create one bin for each of these, I can create a bin with one tool. I'm going to try creating a bin with both to start with. And let's see, that's not going to work, but you see it's automatically resizing. I'm going to grab the corner so I can rotate this, and we can make these, looks like, fit in a relatively small bin. So I'm going to rotate. Yeah, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so 4x6 bin. And honestly, that looks pretty good to me. Maybe I'll scooch this over towards the edge a little bit. I'm gonna turn off snap. For me, snap is just too coarse of a movement. Okay, now you can add text in here if you want. So you can click and type in side cutters, and we can set a size. I'm going to set my size to be 10. Depth 1 millimeter works best for me. Also, it works best if I recess the text, because we've got another short that shows how you can do a really nice labeling look. But I'm going to rotate it and put it over here. And then we're going to make another text. I'm going to call it assembly pliers. It's a little bit long to type assembly. And it would be nice if it snapped to an angle. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. The only thing is, look how deep this is. If we click on, I don't want to make another text. Go to select, and we click on it. We see that that is 20 millimeters deep. That is quite deep for these pliers. I think 10 should be plenty. And unfortunately, this is capped at 5 minimum. I wish they would make that a little bit less. And yeah, you can see these don't quite go all the way to the bottom. And if we make those smaller, then they really don't go all the way to the bottom. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Now, again, you could really obsess over the details on this and try to get everything perfectly lined up and perfectly symmetrical. For me, it's just not worth it. We have hundreds of tools floating around, and ideally we can get all of these things organized with this shadow box style. It would just take too long. You can take however much time you would like, but we're a business. We have to get things done relatively quick, and good and exists is better than perfect and is a to-do. That was actually one of the comments I made in one of our reels a while back, was that exists is better than perfect, and several people commented that they really liked that, so I think I'm going to keep it. Okay, so I've got my bin created now, and we can go up here and name it. I'm going to call it Doyle Plier Bin, and we can change the height of the bin. You can manually, if you turn this, you can manually set the width and height of the grid. It did fine auto sizing here though. You can make it deeper. This cutout depth, it's how deep the tool pocket is cut. I don't quite understand because we're setting that individually anyway. I haven't been able to tell that it does much. Clearance defaulting to 1mm has been fine for me. I have added a chamfer on some of the bins in the past, so if we go to 0.7mm chamfer or so, it just makes the finger cutouts look really weird and the tool looks fine. I've been fine without it, so I'm just leaving that at 0. If you want to put magnets in the bottom, it will create the magnet holes. I don't put magnets in my Gridfinity bins. I started and realized that it was quickly a way to destroy your fingers and really not get a lot of advantage. And in a machine shop, just create another place for chips to attract. The stacking lip, we're probably not going to use it, but I do like having it on there. And the bed size of our printer is 256mm. If you come up with a bin that is bigger than your bed size, it will split it into multiple parts. And that's really handy. I have done that on a couple of bins. And now we're ready to export. So I'm going to export a STL file. I'm going to tell it to keep, and in my case, I haven't made a certificate for my local server, so I had to really tell it I want to keep it. And now I've got that STL, so we're going to go over to the slicer and slice it up in Bamboo Studio. Okay, here in Bamboo Studio, you can see I've been printing some more of these bins with creative names like More Bins Print, but I'm going to prepare a new plate. I am going to add the plier bin that we just created. I'm going to rotate it so it doesn't overlap our calibration area here. Okay, green is fine for the base color, and then I'm going to do the trick that I showed in a short to create the nice shadow box effect. I'm going to use the paint tool. I'm going to paint by height, and I go right above the bottom of the text. I mean, almost as close as you can get, and then paint up. And I'm just going to paint all this. So now with a single filament change, I have a really nice shadow box that's going to show my labels cleanly and just make it look really slick, make it obvious what goes there. And we're not using any more material to do this other than a little bit of purge. For strength, for these bins, I really don't need them to be strong. They're sitting in a toolbox, they hold tools. So I've been doing something like 5 to 10%, and I have been using the gyroid infill. And if we slice the plate up, let's see what we get. This is saying 6 hours and 5 minutes, one filament change, and it's going to cost a little over $6.40, so not quite $6.50 to print. That's not too bad. Let's see, what if we went down to a little bit less infill? I don't know. Let's see, is there any settings we want to change? Yeah, let's just look at changing the infill density down a little bit and see. It's probably not going to save us that much. Well, it saves us $1, a little over $1, and cuts some print time off. So I'm going to do that actually. That's going to be just fine. Okay, so now all we have to do is click print and go back in almost 5 hours and pull it off the printer. Okay, the print is done, so let's go see if the tools are gonna fit. All right, looks pretty good. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with the way these turned out. They could have been maybe a little bit deeper, but I actually think I like that they're not, because it makes it easier to grab and get them out. And it's a good addition to my lathe tool drawer here. So I think this was a success. I hope that you check out Tracefinity and try this. It was pretty easy and made making these Gridfinity bins a lot faster process. Be sure to like and subscribe for more good tutorials and content like this.